Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over the Destiny of X era of X-Men comics. And we actually pick up with Bishop War College. Now, when it comes to War College, I don't know. I feel like it's a 1990s cartoon show name. Like, if they were trying to give Bishop a TV show back in the 1990s, they would call it this right here, Bishop War College. It would have some crazy rock theme song for the opener. Either way though, when it comes to this book right here, it's all about the idea of Bishop trying to train different mutants to kind of help protect Krakoa. Because right now at this point, they have a lot of new enemies popping up left and right that are trying to get rid of the mutant nation or just trying to get rid of the mutant race completely. And so to Bishop, he feels like, you know what? We need more mutants ready to defend the island. And so that is what War College is all about. Basically training mutants to help protect the island. And so getting into the opening pages of this book, we actually do see Bishop currently training 5 mutants for his War College. Now that would be Armor, Surge, Aura Charles, Cam Long, and Amass. Now when it comes to these 5 mutants, most of these characters have been X-Men for a very long time. Others are still freshly new. Either way, they're all down with the idea of helping out to protect the island. Now, the problem is though, Bishop is a hard trainer. And for a very good reason, because remember, when it comes to Bishop, he comes from an alternate future. In that future, it was very dark. Mutants were constantly being hunted down and tortured by sentinels and other kind of enemies who want to kill off the mutant race. And so for Bishop, it's all like, listen, where I come from, it's a constant war for the mutants. And so yes, I may be hard on you, but it's all for a good reason, because even though we have this nation, we have no idea what could happen down the road. We have no idea a war could come to our front door, and we have to be ready for that war. Now, unfortunately, he's such a hard trainer that he's not giving these guys any kind of breaks at all. And that's all they want, a small break to catch their breath, get a bite to eat, and then come back and do more training. But for Bishop, you don't get a break. You don't get a lunch until you are able to show me that you are capable of being great protectors of this island. And so you have all of his students just walk away because they're so upset with him. Now, after his students walk away, that is when he is confronted by Dani Moonstar. Now, when it comes to Dani Moonstar, she is the leader of the New Mutants, but she's kind of like this overprotective friend. Always want to make sure that everybody is A-okay. Now, here's her thing though, because she's kind of worried about Bishop being a teacher. He's too hard on these children. Now, when it comes to Bishop, he has a good reason to him, because again, he comes from a future where it's just a constant war nonstop. But for Dani Moonstar, that is not fair for his students at all, because again, you're not in that time, you're in our time. Things are a tad bit easier than it was in your time, which means that you can be easier on your students. Now, there is another reason why she's so worried about Bishop, because what happened in the Messiah Complex storyline. In that storyline right there, Bishop tried to kill off Hope Summers. And the reason why, because she is the reason why his future got so dark, while there is a constant war between humans and mutants. And so once she was born in the present day, Homeboy tried to kill her off to save his future. Now, the X-Men were able to stop him, but again, to Dani Moonstar, that is a huge problem, a huge red flag. And so she tells him, you have one more day with this group to show us that 1, they have learned everything they need to learn to help protect the island, but 2, to show me that you can lead the next class because you approved as a teacher. Now, as soon as Bishop leaves the island, well, that is the moment we come to find out that the island is about to have a problem. And that problem is Andreas and Andrea von Strucker, the children of Baron von Strucker, one of the many leaders of Hydra. Now, when it comes to the twins, they're technically mutants, but because they're bad guys and they've done a lot of horrible things over the years, they're not welcome on the island at all. But of course, they found a way onto the island, and apparently they are going to do something major on the island that could cause a lot of problems down the road. And the next few pages are really going to be more about how do the students feel when it comes to being taught by Bishop? Because yes, when it comes to his training or trainings, they're very hard. But at the same time, it's him trying to make them better to help protect the island. And so you do have some members of this group say, you know what? I hate the idea of being taught by Bishop. But you have other members say, well, hey, look at this though. We had this great nation, and sooner or later, the humans might try to come after us to get rid of us. And so we have no choice but to go ahead and try to protect this island the best we can. And so unfortunately, the ones who kind of hate the idea of being taught by Bishop, they get talked right back into continuing their training because honestly, they don't have a choice here. We are already seeing different kinds of enemies popping up left and right. And so unfortunately, when it comes to this nation, they're going to need all hands on deck to protect it. And so that's their point right now. Like you have some saying, no, I want to quit, but the others are all like, don't quit. We have something beautiful here. So let's keep fighting to protect this island. But then we see Bishop meet up with Tempo. Now, when it comes to Tempo, she has the ability to slow down time in a certain area around her. Now, this does tie back into what we saw earlier when it came to Danny Moonstar. She told Bishop, you have one more day to get your class ready to prove to us that your war college is actually useful. If not, I'm going to shut it down. And so what he wants to do is use Tempo as a way to slow down time around him and his students to give them more time to train to prove that they are actually ready to protect the island. And you have Tempo agree to this idea. But after that, we didn't see Bishop kind of have a nightmare. Now, when it comes to this nightmare, it's all about the idea of his future. Because again, in that future, it's just a constant war between humans and mutants. But with that future though, a lot of deaths. And so as a young boy, he had to see so many people that he may have known or not know just die around him. And all those dead bodies being piled next to him or in front of him or wherever. And just seeing dead bodies left and right. And so it kind of broke him as a child, and it kind of carried through his entire life. And so in this nightmare, it's just him reminding himself what he saw over the years as being a mutant. And so the next day, you have Bishop meet up with his students once again. And you have Bishop give a very powerful speech here by saying, listen, the reason why I'm so hard on you guys because I want to see the best for you guys. But at the same time, I want to see you guys live. And that right there is very important. I would hate the idea of me teaching you and somehow I failed as a teacher. And with me failing as a teacher, you'll die, or you possibly will not be able to reach the best level of yourself, the best version of yourself. And so with that speech, you actually have these guys say, you know what? Let's continue our training. Now, when it comes to Bishop, he's all like, fine, if you want to, follow me. And so he then takes them down to an underground area of Krakoa. Now, as soon as they arrive, they are confronted by Tempo. And that is when you have Bishop tell them, what's going to happen here is that Tempo is going to slow down time long enough to kind of give them more time to train, to prove that they are actually able to be protectors of this island. And so they begin their training. But as the training is going on, that is when something is about to pop out of the wall in this underground cave. And we kind of find out it was the Von Strucker twins. Now remember, the Von Strucker twins are trying to do something big on the island. And this is where we kind of find out a tad bit of what they're trying to do. And what I mean by that is they have brought a drill with them. Now when it comes to this drill, apparently they're trying to drill somewhere deep in the island. Unfortunately, we have no idea where yet though. Now, we also kind of find out they are working alongside with Orchid. Now remember, Orchid is this brand new group in Marvel Comics that has been working very hard to get rid of the mutant race. And matter of fact, when it comes to Orchid, it was made up from people from different groups across the earth who came together with the same goal to get rid of the mutant race. So you had some folks from Hydra or AIM or even let's say the Hand or Shield coming together to make this group to hopefully get rid of the mutant race. Either way, it seems like the twins are working alongside with them. Now, here's the thing. Even though the twins are mutants as well, they're getting paid a whole lot of money to do this job. Now, we come to find out inside their drill, they also have something known as Blythe's Will. Now, Blythe's Will comes from Otherworld, but it has the ability to shut down mutants' powers. And so the question is right now, why in the world do they have a huge chunk of Blythe's Will for their drill? Either way, they try to use it on our heroes at the moment. Now, they're not affected because they're wearing bracelets that protect them from the Blythe's Will. Except we kind of find out that this is a modified version of the Blythe's Will, because usually all it does is just shut down mutants' powers. That is it. Except this time it makes Tempo powers go crazy and also Bishop power go crazy as well, to the point where when you have both characters use their powers, there is a huge explosion of energy, to only find out that Bishop and Tempo had just disappeared to we have no idea where. And when it comes to the students, they're still there in that cave with the Von Strucker twins. But unfortunately, they have to run away. And the reason why? Because their powers are no longer working, thanks to Blythe's Will. And so now, with their teacher gone and their powers gone, they have no choice but to run away and to hopefully make it back to topside to warn the X-Men about what's happening underneath Krakoa when it comes to the Von Strucker twins. And so now they're being chased down by Orchid and the Strucker twins. And we come to find out what happened to Bishop. See, that huge explosion done by him and Tempo and also the Von Strucker twins, it sent Bishop and also Tempo into another universe. And they arrived at Earth 65. Now, here's the thing though. He is confronted by Cyclops and Jean Grey. Except in this universe, Cyclops and Jean Grey are technically black. And he's all like, where in the world am I? And so as we jump into the second chapter of this book, we pick up with Bishop being confronted by more members of this universe version of the X-Men. So you got Jean Grey, Cyclops, Beast, Iceman, Angel. You have different versions of the X-Men from this universe, but they're all black. Now, when it comes to Bishop, his bright idea is to attack them. Now, for me personally, it's really more the idea that Bishop has no idea if these X-Men are good or bad, because we have seen different kinds of universe over the years in Marvel Comics, and sometimes heroes who are good in one universe are bad in the other, and vice versa for bad guys as well. Either way though, for Bishop is more of, I don't know you guys and I need to protect myself. And so it does lead into a battle. Now, luckily for Bishop and the X-Men of this universe, you have Charles Xavier here, who's also black. He's all like, listen, I know who you are. You're Bishop. You're not my bishop, but you are a bishop. And I feel like I kind of know you a lot because in our universe, we also have a bishop. And so it's Charles Xavier trying to calm him down. And this is a huge callback to the relationship between our Bishop and our Charles Xavier from the Earth 616 universe. And the reason why, because usually when it comes to Bishop, he always looks up to Charles Xavier. He's always trying to be there for Charles Xavier. And a lot of times when it comes to Bishop, when he feels lost or has no idea what he should do next for his life, he goes over to Charles Xavier for guidance. I mean, there was a point where Bishop had no idea if he should stay in the past or go back into the future. But thanks to Charles, he was all like, hey, you know what? I feel like you should stay here. And I feel like you should be an X-Men of this time. And you had Bishop say, all right, if you feel that's the right thing for me to do, then I'm going to do that. And he stayed with Charles Xavier and the rest of the X-Men. And so when it comes to him meeting this universe version of Charles Xavier, he's down to listen to him. He's all like, okay, you're not my Charles, but you are Charles. And that right there just earned you enough of my time to listen to you speak and see if you're able to calm me down and help me understand what in the world is going on here. Now, that is when you have this Charles introduce Earth 65's version of Bishop. It's Bishop meeting himself. And so then we jump over to Earth 616. Now, when we do, we actually pick up with the Von Strucker twins calling up Moira McTaggart. Now, when they do, it's Moira McTaggart reminding us that one, she's a bad guy, but two, she's also working alongside with Orchid. Now, with that being said, though, she's currently their boss, and she wants an update like, hey, how is your mission going? What is happening currently? And they tell her, hey, everything was going smoothly at first when it came to digging into Krakoa, and we still have no idea why they're trying to dig into Krakoa 4. But they told her, hey, everything was going great until we ran into Bishop and his war college. Now, that is enough for her to say, abort the mission. But of course, they're like, no, we can still do this. But on top of that, you are paying us a lot of money. And so we want to see this job through so that we are able to get that money. So don't worry, we'll take care of Bishop and his war college kids as well, so that we are able to accomplish this mission. Now, this is Moira McTaggart saying, fine, I'll give you guys a few more hours. But the next update better be a good update, or I'm going to tell you you're done, abort the mission. And so then we jump over to the war college students. Now, when we do, you have half the group say, we should go topside. And the reason why? To find other members of the X-Men to deal with this situation. While you have the other half saying, no, we should go back down there and try to stop them. Now, the reason why you have half the side say we should find other X-Men to kind of handle this situation, because one, they don't have their powers right now. And two, they feel like they are not properly ready to handle a situation like this. But the other half is saying, even though we don't have our powers, Bishop has been training us for a while and teaching us different kinds of ways to handle different kinds of situations like this one right here. And so I'm pretty sure that without our powers, we can still make a difference. We have to do something, because if we go your route, it could take too long and the bad guys might get away with what they're here for. And so we should try to at least stop them. Except that is the moment where they are confronted by the Von Strucker twins. Now, as soon as the Von Strucker twins appear, it does lead into another battle. Now, let's not forget here, guys, when it comes to our heroes, some of our heroes cannot do anything at all, because thanks to the Blythe's will, they cannot even use their powers. In other cases, the ones who can use their powers cannot even control their powers. And so right now, it makes for a very interesting kind of battle for our heroes while trying to stop the Von Strucker twins. Now, in the middle of the fight, you didn't have two people actually touch the character known as a mask. When it comes to a mask, he has the ability to absorb your mind, body, and power. So he'll be able to grow in size, use your powers, but also know everything you know as well by absorbing your mind. Now, with that being said, though, when it comes to a mask, he hasn't truly learned how to control his powers. And so with the Blythe's will as well, it makes things even harder for him. And so in the middle of the fight, he does touch Cam Long, one of his team members, and also Andreas, one of the Von Strucker twins. And with that happening, he does grow in size, a very big size, or a very larger size, sorry. And on top of that, he's now able to use their powers as well. But getting into the third chapter of this book, we actually do pick up with Bishop still on Earth 65. And with him being there is him kind of learning more about this universe version of the X-Men. By meeting more members of this group, he's realizing that one, they're all black, but two, this world is way more peaceful. But on top of that, they have their own Krakoa. their own quiet council. Now, getting back over to what I said just a moment ago about this Earth being more peaceful, when it comes to Charles Xavier, he is able to link everyone's minds together to learn the big differences between the two universes. And when they do that, they realize that the main Marvel universe is such a dark place, especially for mutants. But over here, it's not like that. That apparently humans and mutants are working together. It's a more beautiful world. Now, for Bishop, he does not care. He just wants to go back home. And so he does tell the X-Men, like, hey, I need to find Heather Tempo. Like, she's my way home. Where is she? And they're like, Heather? Heather's not a mutant. She's a human. There's no way her powers are going to help you get back home because she has no powers. Now for Bishop, that's very interesting because in his universe, Temple is a mutant. She's the reason why, or part of the reason why they're here in this universe. So to hear the idea that this version over here and this world is not a mutant, it's kind of like, how will Bishop now get back home? But getting back over to the main Marvel universe, we pick up with Moira McTaggart having a conversation with Kelvin Hang. Now, when it comes to Kelvin, he is another member of Orchid. Either way, though, you have the two characters wondering if they made the right move when it comes to basically trusting the Von Strucker twins with this certain mission. And we kind of find out that what they're trying to do is dig to the pit. The pit is where you are technically locked away if you break one of the 3 rules on Krakoa, and you are locked away for an unknown amount of time. And so when it comes to Moira, she wants to release the mutants in the pit and to use them against Krakoa, but to also use them against the mutant race as well. Because again, if they are released, these are some horrible bad mutants who could do some more horrible things to kind of ruin the image for the mutant race, to turn the other nations against Krakoa. But getting back over to the Ward College students, you do have a mask try to attack Andrea because again, he has no idea how to control his powers. And so right now he's trying to basically juggle 3 minds in his body, but 3 different kind of power sets in his body as well in his huge mass of body of his. And so right now he is just chasing after her, trying to do harm to her. Now she is able to kind of get back to the rest of her group, her fellow Orchid soldiers, and being able to knock out a mask. And once she's able to do that, he does turn back to normal, which then releases both Cam Long and also Andreas. Now, once they are released, that tells us now Amass and also Cam Long, they're now being held as prisoners. And once you have Andreas being able to recover, that means our 2 bad guys, Von Strucker's twins, will be able to go after the rest of the group. But the question is now, where is the rest of the group? And that is the moment we come to find out they were saved by a character known as Wrong Slide. Now, when it comes to Wrong Slide, remember, this is not Rock Slide. See, at the very beginning of the Krakoa era of X-Men comics, you had a character known as Rock Slide. The thing was, he died over in Otherworld. And when he did die, that was when the X-Men realized that if they bring back someone who died in Otherworld, they come back corrupted. And so when they try to bring back Rock Slide, well, he came back to life, just corrupted, this wrong version of you. And so when it came to Wrong Slide, he was kind of like a baby. They had to kind of train him how to speak, train him how to walk, train him how to use his powers. He was basically a baby, just relearning everything he already knew when he was Rock Slide. But again, this was a corrupted version. And so at this point in X-Men comics, he's kind of like a normal person. It's just that he's not the Rock Slide that most people remember. Either way, he was able to the rest of the group that was in that battle with the Von Strucker twins. Now, when it comes to the rest of our group here, they realize that what the Von Strucker twins are trying to do, they're trying to break out the prisoners from the pit. And they realize they have no choice, but they have to go stop the twins before they are able to do that. We then jump back over to Bishop on Earth 65, who is about to go look for Tempo. his tempo. The reason why is because he believes that with him being teleported to this universe, but landing near his alternate universe version of himself, then she probably did the same thing. Except when it comes to Destiny, she tells Bishop that she saw his future and says, a war is coming soon for the mutants of your universe, the main Marvel universe. We have been seeing this a lot when it came to the main Marvel Universe Destiny, saying the same thing over and over again about a war coming soon, because they can both see the future and something big is coming soon, apparently. And so that is when you have the two bishops go over to New York. Now, when they do arrive in New York, it gives our bishop the ability to look around and realize how great this earth truly is. Because when he does look around, he is seeing mutants being able to use their powers freely and not fear about the idea of being attacked by humans. And matter of fact, you have some mutants working alongside with the humans to show how great this earth is, how better this earth is when it comes to the main Marvel universe. Now, with that being said, they do stop by the Tucker Clinic. Now, when it comes to the Tucker Clinic, this is where mutants go to begin their journey as a mutant, meaning that they come here to find out if they are a mutant or not. Now, when our two bishops arrive, they find Heather. Now, for our bishop, he believes that this is his Heather. But you have the other bishop say, dude, this is not your Heather. It's our Heather. Can you please back off? Except that is the moment there is a huge explosion. And we come to find out there are still groups here who hate mutants so much they want to get rid of mutants. Because on this earth, you have the Human Liberation Front. And their goal is to shut down the mutant race and let the human race rise right back up. But getting into the fourth chapter, we do pick up with Danny Moonstar and also Magic kind of wondering where in the world is Bishop, Tempo, and the rest of the War College students. And so you have the two of them say, okay, we have to find them now because they could be in trouble, which they are. But getting back over to Earth 65, we do see Bishop currently trying to fight against the Human Liberation Front. Now, while the fight goes on for Bishop, this is great. And the reason why, because he is so used to fighting. Either way, he does try to get his alternate version of himself to also fight. The thing is though, the Bishop of Earth 65 is not a fighter. Rather than being a fighter, he wanted to be a teacher. And so he's kind of like, I can't fight. I can't help you. I never got into the whole fighting thing. I'd rather teach mutants how to control their powers rather than fight against bad guys. And so because of that, he's hiding scared currently. And you have Bishop say, dude, you have one of the best powers of the X-Men. You are able to jump in this battle to be able to fight against enemies like this right here. It's time for you to go ahead and stand up and fight against, the bad guys here. Now, as the fighting goes on, you do have the X-Men of this world appear to help Bishop out, but to also kind of get the innocent people out of here as well. And so while the fight is going on, you have Heather, Tempo, try to get to her father. Now, her father is going to be very important. But we come to find out her father and her are two people who technically run this clinic. Either way, at the tail end of this battle, a bomb goes off. A suicide bomb goes off, and we're left to wonder who survived the explosion. But getting back over to the main Marvel universe, we do pick up with the War College students who are currently wondering what should they do, because they realize they have to go back and save their friends, the ones who've been taken captive, but at the same time, they have to stop the Von Strucker twins from getting into the pit. And so you had this group say, you know what, it's time for us to go be heroes. And so they do find the Von Strucker twins being able to fight against them, but to also be able to save their friends as well. The problem is though, while the fighting was going on, the drill was still on, to the point where it was able to drill into the pit. And so now the passage to the pit is completely open, which means that sooner or later, prisoners in the pit now have the ability to escape, and that could lead to more chaos on Krakoa. But getting back over to Earth 65, we do pick up with Bishop realizing that he did not die. And the reason why, because Tempo put a time barrier around him, her, and the father of Earth 65, Heather. Now, the reason why I say the father of the Earth 65 version of Heather, because this Heather right here is actually the main Marvel Universe Heather. But the thing is, she realized that in this Earth, in this universe, her father was alive. And so she tried her best to replace this Earth Heather so that she'll be able to spend time with her father. And so when it came to Bishop earlier, he realized, hey, I knew it was you earlier. I knew it wasn't this Earth Heather. It was you trying to pretend to be her only because you want to be with your father, because back home, your dad is dead. And I get that. But the thing is, you cannot do that. That's her father, not your father. Your father died, and we do not belong here. And so I need your powers once again to get us the heck out of here and to go back home. Now for Tempo, she's kind of like, I don't want to go back home. I want to stay here. But the problem is though, now her father in this universe is also going to die, because with that explosion, it got him pretty good. And so even though she did slow down time around him, her and Bishop, well, sooner or later he's going to die. And so it's Bishop saying, let's go ahead and go back. I'm sorry, we have to. And so she does use her powers and begin the process of sending them back home to the main Marvel universe. And so as we dive into the 5th chapter of this book, we do get another moment where it's Bishop talking to Tempo. Like at the end of the 4th chapter, it does seem like, okay, you know what? She's using her powers to send them right back home to the main Marvel universe. Except what she's trying to do is continue to use her powers as a way to keep her father alive. Now, again, it's not really her father. This is the Earth 65 version of her father. Either way, it's Bishop saying, we can't stay here. We don't belong here. Now, he does give us another reason. And that reason is because he feels like her and him coming here brought the chaos here. This world was at peace. It was a peaceful world for mutants and humans. And look, the few minutes we've been here, we brought chaos. What if we are the reason why the chaos is here? Why not go ahead and leave now so the chaos will leave them alone? And so the Tempo is kind of like, with her coming here, did end up killing her father, bringing the chaos to this version of her father. And so she does agree with Bishop that the two of them should go ahead and leave and go back to the main Marvel universe. Now, once you have Bishop and Tempo being able to arrive back in their own time, they arrive right in the middle of the battle between the Von Strucker twins and the War College students. And so you have the entire group work together to defeat the actual bad guys. And at the end of the section, they're able to do that. This story begins the process of wrapping up very quickly. Now, when it comes to the gaping hole that leads into the pit, the hole does get reclosed, and so the pit is now secure once again. And so even though the Von Struckers were able to find the pit and dig inside of it, no prisoner was able to escape at all. And so it does look like the day is actually saved. Now, when it comes to Falong and also Mormon Taggart, even though they're very disappointed in the idea that they were not able to free any kind of prisoners from the pit, they're still happy about the idea that they were able to collect information, knowing who is inside the pit and who is not inside the pit. Because remember, Mormon Taggart was there at the very beginning of Krakoa, and so she believed that certain prisoners were kept inside the pit. She has no idea that some prisoners were able to escape, like Sabretooth did in his own solo series, and also a set of characters who are also trying to leave with Sabretooth as well. And so because of that, she has no idea that he got out and other characters got out. And so now she knows who's inside there and who is not inside there. Information is a very powerful tool you could use to bring down an enemy. Now, getting back over to Bishop in the Earth 63 universe, we do see him currently being trained by the magic of that universe. Being around the main Marvel universe version of our Bishop, he realized that it's probably better to not just be a teacher, but to also know how to fight, to teach children how to fight, because you never know what could happen to you down the road. You need to be prepared for anything. And so we see the bishop of that universe beginning his training with magic. And the book begins the process of really wrapping up very quickly, because you didn't have Bishop go to his war college students to tell them, listen, you guys were able to do what you had to do. You saved the day. And that shows that you guys were able to take mind training, learn from mind training, and become great protectors of this island. And so because of that, it's Bishop saying, you guys have graduated. You guys are ready for the next step. You have proved that the War College is something this island truly needs. And this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. Later, guys.